Hello viewers, Bullseye Movies brings you Season 2, Episode 3 of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, titled A Will and a Dead Man's Wife, which marks one of the most emotionally charged chapters of the series so far. While the first two episodes of the season largely focused on Georgie and Mandy settling into married life and navigating their relationship with the McAllister family, this episode deliberately shifts its attention back to the Cooper family's unresolved grief following the sudden death of George Sr. In doing so, the episode grounds the spin-off firmly in its young Sheldon roots and reminds viewers that, despite the sitcom format, there are still deep emotional wounds shaping these characters. More than a year and a half has passed since George Sr.'s death, and on the surface, life seems to have moved forward for most of the Cooper family. Mary and Missy appear to be finding a sense of normalcy again, adjusting to the reality of life without their husband and father. However, the episode reveals that not everyone is healing at the same pace. In fact, it becomes clear that Georgie, surprisingly, is the one who remains most emotionally stuck in the past. This revelation is particularly striking because Georgie is typically portrayed as the practical, forward-moving one. Since young Sheldon, he has often been the Cooper sibling who steps up when needed, putting responsibility ahead of his own feelings. In this episode, though, that emotional repression finally boils over, and the show presents him in an unflattering and unexpected light. Rather than being the family's stabilizing force, Georgie becomes the source of tension and conflict, earning him the episode's controversial villain label. The episode's story unfolds around unresolved issues tied to George Sr.'s death, including lingering resentment, grief, and unspoken emotions that have been quietly festering. Mary and Missy approach the situation with a sense of acceptance, suggesting they've done the difficult emotional work needed to move forward. Georgie, on the other hand, is unable, or unwilling, to let go. His grief manifests as anger, defensiveness, and emotional rigidity, which causes friction with the rest of the family. What makes Georgie's behavior so jarring is that his pain isn't rooted in selfishness, but in unresolved loss. Still, the episode doesn't excuse his actions. Instead, it portrays how unprocessed grief can warp good intentions and push someone into harmful territory, even toward the people they love most. Georgie's refusal to move on creates emotional roadblocks not just for himself, but for Mary and Missy as well, who are trying to rebuild their lives after tragedy. The return of Mary and Missy is especially significant in this episode. While Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is technically a new show with a new central couple, Episode 3 reinforces that the Cooper family's emotional history remains inseparable from Georgie's present. Mary, in particular, embodies quiet resilience. Her grief is still present, but she channels it into survival and caretaking, trying to keep the family functional rather than emotionally frozen. Missy, meanwhile, represents a more youthful and adaptive response to loss. Though deeply affected by her father's death, she appears to have found ways to process her grief and grow from it. Her contrast with Georgie is telling. While Missy allows herself to feel and evolve, Georgie clings to the pain, perhaps out of guilt, responsibility, or fear of forgetting his father. This emotional imbalance highlights one of the episode's most compelling ideas, that grief doesn't follow a linear path, and healing timelines can vary wildly even within the same family. Georgie's struggle underscores how being the strong one can actually delay emotional recovery, especially when someone feels obligated to hold everything together. From a broader storytelling perspective, the episode serves an important purpose in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2. It bridges the gap between honoring young Sheldon's legacy and carving out the spin-off's own identity. While the show must inevitably move forward, Episode 3 proves that the past cannot, and should not, be ignored. Instead, it needs to be confronted, even when that confrontation is uncomfortable. By the end of the episode, Georgie's emotional turmoil remains unresolved, but that's precisely what makes the story effective. Rather than wrapping his grief up neatly, the episode allows it to linger, setting up potential long-term consequences for his marriage, his relationship with his family, and his own sense of self. It's a reminder that trauma doesn't disappear simply because time has passed. Ultimately, Season 2, Episode 3 stands out as one of the most emotionally honest episodes of the series. By placing Georgie in the role of the antagonist, not out of malice, but out of unresolved grief, the show deepens his character and challenges audience expectations. It reinforces the idea that Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage isn't just about romance or comedy, but about how people carry loss, how families fracture and heal, and how the past continues to shape the future long after tragedy strikes. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on our channel more videos.